Although 80% of Greenland is covered by ice and snow, it is one of the hottest topics globally. A US citizenship is worth $5 million, a Tesla car, and $1 million in cash for each person here if they agree to merge with the US. Yet, the people here say no. What makes these people, who have been devoted to fishing for hundreds of years, reject such a life-changing opportunity? The answer is, they love this place and don't want any interference from the US regarding the massive mineral deposits lying right under their feet in the eternal ice. Beneath the melting ice, caused by climate change, lies a colossal reserve of minerals and rare earth metals totaling 1.5 million tons, ranking 8th in the world. Additionally, Greenland has abundant resources such as oil, gold, silver, and precious stones. Known as the largest island in the world, Greenland boasts a mysterious beauty that is unlike any other place on Earth. This harsh beauty is difficult to access. To travel between the islands, people often rely on boats, helicopters, or planes. Now let's land at the most surreal airport on Earth to begin our journey in Greenland. Ilulissat Ice Fjord concentrates one of Greenland's most dynamic glacier systems, dominated by Sermiligaaq, recognized as the fastest-moving and most productive glacier in the entire Northern Hemisphere. Each year, this massive glacier discharges more than 8.4 cubic miles of icebergs, accounting for roughly 10% of all ice carved from the Greenland ice sheet. Measured by water use scale, the volume of ice formed here each day is approximately equivalent to the amount of water consumed by the entire island of Manhattan in New York over a full year, demonstrating the extreme operational scale of this ice system. At the mouth of the fjord lies a shallow zone known as Isfjeldsbanken, where enormous icebergs frequently become grounded, pile up, and can only drift into the open ocean after melting enough to pass over the shallow threshold. Within this frozen natural setting, local communities develop a food culture adapted to the environment, in which matak, whale skin and blubber rich in vitamin C, is chewed like gum and regarded as a culturally important staple. Disko Bay is the largest open bay on the central west coast of Greenland and serves as a space of intersection between ice, the ocean, and human history. It is famous for the fastest and most productive glacier on Earth, Sermiligaaq, which continuously pushes massive ice blocks into the sea. But that's not all. Beneath the ice surface, Disko Bay also holds ancient human traces at the archaeological site of Qaqortoormiit, preserved almost intact thanks to the layer of permafrost, with hundreds of thousands of animal bones and wooden artifacts. On Disko Island, scientists discovered the frozen 4,000-year-old remains of a man from the Ska culture named Nuuk and successfully decoded his DNA. The genetic results show that the Sakak people are closely related to the indigenous populations of northeastern Siberia. In the icy environment of the bay, the phenomenon of sasat frequently occurs, where whales or seabirds become trapped in rapidly closing ice holes. Large groups of marine animals are forced into small, remaining ice holes as the ice continuously closes. They survive by constantly moving and surfacing to breathe, creating enough movement to slow the freezing process of the water surface. When sasat happens, hunters can easily access a large amount of food and materials without needing to hunt far, providing a temporary boost to the local economy. In Greenlandic, Qilakitsoq means place with very little sky, a name that directly reflects the enclosed terrain of the area with steep cliffs surrounding it and frequent fog conditions. Due to the hard rock terrain and the lack of suitable burial grounds, locals do not bury the dead underground, but place bodies in rock cavities or beneath protruding rocks, then pile stones on top to form a grave. The cold, dry, and continuously ventilated conditions at Qilakitsoq have inadvertently created an ideal environment for natural mummification, helping bodies be preserved in almost perfect condition for centuries. Life for the community here depends entirely on hunting seals, whales, caribou, and polar bears. However, this balance began to collapse when Europeans arrived and began hunting seals with new technologies such as nets, depleting the primary food source. The settlement is last recorded as a permanent residence in 1811 and was quickly abandoned after that, most likely due to the increasingly fierce competition for food that led to a severe food shortage. In Greenlandic Kangerlussuaq, Uummannaq means heart-shaped, a name that directly stems from the double-peak mountain rising in the center of the island, dominating the entire surrounding horizon. This mountain is not only a symbolic landmark, but also a natural reference point for the community living along the edge of the ice and the sea. This place is known as the sunniest spot in Greenland, with the most sunshine hours in the country. Thanks to its location, deep in a narrow fjord and surrounded by the high mountains of the Nuuk Peninsula, this natural barrier helps stabilize the local atmosphere, reducing the fog from the sea and making the sky clearer. The light reflected from the sea ice and mountain slopes creates a more stable living environment compared to many other Arctic settlements. At Spiegelbugten Bay on the island's west, considered the original home of Santa Claus, stands a grass-roofed hut originally built as a set for a Danish television show. Although a product of media, this building has become an inseparable part of the imagination of Danish and Greenlandic children. In front of this house, there is a giant mailbox. Letters sent here from all over the world will be replied to directly from the Christmas atmosphere-filled office space inside the building. A land of survival, like a declaration of borders and sovereignty. This is the largest town in northern Greenland and is among the northernmost inhabited settlements on Earth, located just about 850 miles from the North Pole. There are no bustling roads, sparse neighbors, just emptiness that makes you feel both small and completely free. With a high Arctic tundra climate, extremely low temperatures stretch year-round, and the bare, treeless terrain makes agriculture impossible here. Green vegetables are considered a luxury, and hunting and fishing are the only ways to sustain life. Life for the people depends entirely on hunters, sled dogs, and their ability to move on sea ice. Although pickups and SUVs still exist in the town, the four-legged warriors, capable of pulling 4 to 5 times their body weight, are still considered a better alternative. No need for oil. No need to waste hours just to start a car. Just a fish or a bit of meat is enough to fuel long hours on a snow desert. Greenland dogs also have the ability to sense ice thickness and dangerous cracks, something machines cannot do. In this resource-scarce environment, every part of the hunted animal is utilized. Skin is used for clothing and kayak coverings, meat for food, and narwhal tusks are carved into tools and jewelry. In these harsh survival conditions, it has never been difficult for the locals to abandon their homeland. Survival and adaptation are always prioritized. It takes about 2 to 3 hours if traveling by private plane, but if on foot or with ground expedition groups, the journey from Qaanaaq to one of the largest national parks in the world could take weeks. Welcome to Northeast Greenland National Park, where sled dogs take on military-like tasks in harsh Arctic conditions. In the frozen desert of northeast Greenland, sled dogs are not just a means of transportation, but the foundation of the entire human control system. These dog teams, pulling patrols, can operate continuously for 26 months without rest, without returning to base, moving across sea ice, glaciers, and tundra without any infrastructure support. Their main task is to patrol borders and conduct long-range reconnaissance to assert and maintain Denmark's sovereignty over Greenland. Today, amidst increasing border disputes and geopolitical tensions in the Arctic, Sirius's role in asserting sovereignty and monitoring foreign activities in the area has become more important than ever. The Sirius team is responsible for enforcing conservation regulations, monitoring human activity, and maintaining order in one of the most pristine areas left on Earth. The Sermiligaaq Glacier is one of the most important ice systems in Greenland and is also believed by many scientists to be the origin of the iceberg that caused the Titanic disaster in 1912. This glacier has a significant impact on global sea levels, responsible for about 4% of the 20th century rise, and accounting for nearly 1/5 of the total ice loss from the entire Greenland ice sheet. When large-scale calving events occur, the movement of the ice mass can generate ice quakes with a magnitude of over 5.0 on the Richter scale, strong enough for seismographs worldwide to detect. Remarkably, tourism activities in this area often put pressure on the local community, with large cruise ships bringing limited economic benefits, but causing over-tourism and environmental pollution. Locals are often annoyed when tourists take photos of them without permission or risk climbing onto floating icebergs. At the Titanic Museum in Tennessee, a real ice wall unexpectedly collapsed in 2021, injuring 3 visitors, reflecting the potential danger of large ice structures. A harsh city with no roads connecting it to other towns and essential goods difficult to access, making the cost of living extremely high. Yet over 1/3 of Greenland's population still calls this place home. What may seem unbearable to others has become a routine for them. Life continues, defined more by necessity than choice. The urban landscape of Nuuk is recognized by its colorful houses, originally not for decoration, but to signify function. Red for schools and churches, yellow for hospitals, and black for police forces, helping residents navigate through harsh weather conditions. Despite being Greenland's capital, the airport here can only handle small aircraft due to the mountainous terrain. In 2025, the international runway was expanded from 900 meters to 2,200 meters, with modern terminals and amenities to become the country's primary international transport hub. This event isn't just about infrastructure, it's part of a strategy to make Nuuk the capital of the Arctic, boosting Greenland's international competitiveness and economic self-sufficiency. Just 200 miles north of Nuuk lies the famous settlement of Sisimiut, home to over 5,500 residents. This city is considered the most important operational hub in northern Greenland, ensuring the port remains functional without being blocked by ice. Sisimiut's location, thanks to the interaction between the West Greenland Current and the coastal topography, creates a sheltered environment in the Kangerlussuaq Bay, preventing sea ice from forming. Thanks to its import/export and fishing industries, the average income of Sisimiut's residents tends to be higher than the national average in Greenland. Locals here have witnessed one of the rarest extreme phenomena on Earth. For 37 consecutive days, the sun never sets, lighting up the entire town, where 3 a.m. looks just like 3 p.m. The image of the sun rising on the horizon is incorporated into Greenland's national flag, symbolizing the sun's importance to the people's psyche. Ittoqqortoormiit is considered the most remote inhabited community in the region. With brutal winters and short, cool summers, this land seems unwelcoming to foreign visitors. To preserve local culture and limit the impact of mass tourism, the town has purposely avoided building hotels. In 2018, a proposal for a 50-room aurora viewing resort was put forward, promising to create year-round jobs and a stable source of foreign income. However, in a community meeting, the project was completely rejected after just 12 minutes of discussion. This decision stemmed from observations in other parts of Greenland, where large-scale tourism had drastically changed local social structures. The people didn't want their town to become an Instagram backdrop like Tasiilaq. They wanted their children to grow up seeing their culture truly respected, not as a display to make money. Instead, the homestay system is maintained with strict control, limiting the number of guests at a time to about 20. This system allows local families to earn an income of 300 to 500 krona per night without abandoning their traditional hunting lifestyle. Beyond Kangerlussuaq Airport in western Greenland, tourists can also land in this icy land at Kulusuk Airport. However, this airport is considered less stable than the Western Gateway due to its weather and climate, which often aren't suitable for landing. In Kulusuk, death isn't really about disappearance. The names of the deceased are seen as a gift. Crosses do not bear the names of the deceased, following the tradition that their names will be given to a newborn in the community. According to Inuit belief, names are not just personal labels, but are tied to identity and spirit. Passing on a name helps the presence of the deceased continue within the community's life cycle, instead of being severed from future generations. Further north, about 80 kilometers from the town of Ilulissat, Sermiligaaq is a tidewater glacier flowing into the sea in the Disko Bay area of West Greenland. A sad note for those wishing to explore and admire the icy rivers here is that in the next 5 years, this glacier will no longer exist. It will retreat far from the mountain, which is truly alarming. After periods of stability, the last 20 years have witnessed dramatic melting events. Rising temperatures mean the lost ice will never be replaced. This is one of the few tidewater glaciers in the world with an ice face slanting to about 45 degrees. The unusual structure of these ice walls is caused by the phenomenon of the bay floor sloping outward to the sea, causing the ice base to erode faster than the top. This unstable state often signals large ice-carving events with mechanisms similar to snow avalanches. In this geologically active region, seals and seabirds often appear, using the floating ice as a temporary resting place. The contrasting scenery between calm and the sound of cracking ice like bombs makes the boundary between stability and collapse blurred. When these ice blocks fall into the sea, they create huge waves that can rise from 15 to 20 meters on the opposite shore, eroding long-standing vegetation and limiting the access of tour ships in the area. Tasiilaq and Kulusuk are only separated by a narrow strait, but to get there from Kulusuk, you can only travel by boat for 40 minutes. In this icy strait, a population of polar bears has become isolated functionally and genetically for hundreds of years. This isolation is not just geographical, but also ecological, meaning they don't exchange individuals, they don't breed, and they don't rely on nearby polar bear populations in northeast Greenland or Arctic Canada. As a result, the genetic makeup of this group shows marked differences, enough for scientists to propose recognizing it as the 20th polar bear population in the world. Survival is linked with adaptation. The limits of endurance are just theory here, and the people live similarly to the bears. Essentials for the town are mostly transported by supply ships that only operate from late May to late November. During the winter, when ice and weather cut off sea routes, essential goods can only be delivered by air. In the late 19th century, the Inuit of the Uummannaq region used carved wooden maps to record the coastline with high detail, serving navigation and hunting in a time without writing. While Tasiilaq offers a glimpse into the beauty of East Greenland, deeper in the vast wilderness of the island lies Sermiligaaq, a remote village with about 202 residents. A relatively small population, equivalent to less than 1/20th of the population of a small apartment building in New York. However, while neighboring villages like Qaqortoq and Kulusuk are witnessing a decline in population, Sermiligaaq has experienced slow but steady growth over the past 2 decades. Sparse neighbors and harsh weather conditions force the people here to be closely bonded, surviving together against the harshness of nature. The culinary life in the village will surprise you, as traditional dishes like raw whale blubber coexist with industrial frozen food and modern imported drinks like frozen fried chicken or Pepsi. That's not all. The locals here watch Hollywood movies and listen to music from international artists. Children in the village can sing along to Lady Gaga's Bad Romance and perform the monster claw dance moves despite not sharing the same language with visitors. A large scar on Greenland's pristine wonders is Bluey East 2. This was the US military's codename BE-2, built in 1942 during World War II. The starting point for the bombing raid in 1943, Colonel Bernd Balchen used this airport to carry out a bombing against the German weather station on Sabine Island, about 965 kilometers to the north, but failed due to the harsh weather here. American Flowers is the ironic name given by the local Inuit people to the thousands of rusted orange oil drums scattered across the landscape, looking from afar like marigold flowers. Estimates of the number of oil drums left behind vary widely, but the amount of oil could fuel a small city with over 20,000 cars for an entire year. However, it has become an environmental disaster, with lead and toxins seeping into the ground. In the Greenlandic language, Sermiligaaq means the place of glaciers. This is not a metaphor. Here, ice truly pours into the sea day after day, like slow-moving rivers that never stop flowing. At the head of the fjord, Helheim Glacier, one of Greenland's largest and most active glaciers, releases massive blocks of ice straight into the water. Each time the ice breaks apart, the fjord trembles. The sound is dry and heavy, like a stone door slamming shut into the ocean. The fjord is frequently choked with drifting ice, so dense that people describe it as an iceberg highway, where blocks of all sizes crowd together, collide, and slowly rotate with the tides. From above, they resemble floating architectural structures. From the water's surface, they are cold, sharp barriers, unyielding and impossible to negotiate with. But that is not all. It is the wildlife that truly makes this region striking, with the recent appearance of unfamiliar species. In recent years, as ocean waters have warmed, species never before recorded here have begun to appear, such as Atlantic mackerel, porbeagle sharks, which are deep cold water predators, and the red king crab, a massive invasive species with a hard shell and rapid reproduction. Their arrival is not a miracle. It is a signal. It may mark the beginning of a new ecological revolution in this region, or it may be a warning of extinction for species uniquely adapted to these icy, frigid waters. Greenland, where not only are the icebergs born, but also a land where the footprints of explorers are etched not just in the land, but also in the very name of the land. In Greenland, there are two glaciers named Knud Rasmussen. One located in East Greenland near Tasiilaq, and the other in northwest Greenland, near the Thule Air Base, both named after a Greenlandic explorer and anthropologist, the first to cross the Northwest Passage by dog sled. The glacier can be accessed after a few hours of paddling from Tasiilaq. It is one of the 4 glaciers contributing to the world's largest ice production system, Hvalsey Bay in northwest Greenland. Due to the Arctic landscape lacking familiar landmarks like trees or houses, when viewed from a distance, the glacier seems small and close. However, when you approach it by boat or kayak, its true size slowly reveals itself, causing explorers to be astonished. It's like approaching a mountain you thought was a hill until the base swallows your view. Although boat or kayak tours can get you close to the glacier's base, keeping a safe distance is mandatory as ice carving events occur continuously without warning, much like sudden rainstorms in the Amazon rainforest, though far more dangerous and brutal. At the eastern edge of Greenland, where sea ice melts slowly and the wind blows straight from the Arctic Ocean, there is a small village so tiny that the map marks it with just a faint dot, Tiilerilaaq. The people here rarely call it by that name. They call it Tiinit, short, familiar, like the way you would call a family member. Tiilerilaaq is one of the smallest communities in Greenland. The population fluctuates from about 87 to over 100 people, depending on the time. That number is not just a statistic, it's the pulse of a place where everyone knows each other's name, home, and even the gaps when someone leaves. Unlike larger towns, there are no cars here. No engine sounds, no asphalt roads. People walk from home to school, from the dock to the rocks. Slow, familiar steps leave imprints on thin snow or cold earth. Tiilerilaaq has nothing spectacular in terms of tourism. No resorts, no coffee shops. If the eastern coast tells the story of endurance, we enter another Greenland, where history, meadows, and Viking footprints still remain. About 80% of Greenland's area is covered by ice, but Narsaq is a rare exception. Here, a more breathable environment exists compared to the harsher lands of this country. For this reason, it was recognized as a town early on, in 1959, when its population exceeded 600 people, making it the 9th largest town in Greenland. People have lived in the Narsaq region for thousands of years, but not continuously. The climate changed, hunting routes shifted, ice advanced and retreated. Successive generations didn't always follow the previous ones. Narsaq feels like a place that people pass through in cycles whenever conditions permit. However, people didn't leave entirely because the land still has much to offer. The water from the melting ice here is exceptionally pure and is used as a crucial ingredient in the local beer flavor. Not only is it pure water, but water that has been compressed, frozen, and then thawed over hundreds, even thousands of years. The beer's taste is soaked with the essence of time, and anyone who tries it can't help but be fascinated by its flavor. Surviving in a place that constantly tries to kill you has never been easy, and nearly 4/5 of Greenland lies within the Arctic Circle, giving it an extremely harsh polar climate. Temperatures remain cold throughout the year, with winters that feel endless and summers that barely exist, and deep within this frozen expanse lies Kangerlussuaq, one of its most unusual gateways. Would you believe that a strategic military base, which once played a critical role in world history, ended up being cheaper than a cup of coffee? Established by the United States military in 1941 under the codename Bluey West 8, this site once served as a vital transatlantic refueling hub during World War II. However, when the Cold War came to an end, the United States carried out an almost unimaginable deal, selling the entire massive infrastructure complex back to the government of Greenland in 1992 for just $1. Yet the true value of this land does not lie in concrete structures, but in its impossible sky. Located deep inland and completely isolated from the moist influence of the oceanic climate, the area experiences more than 300 clear nights each year, earning it a reputation as the most spectacular aurora theater on the planet. The absurdity reaches its peak when visitors realize they do not need to venture into remote forests or climb high mountains, because the moment they step off the plane, right on the frozen runway itself, they can witness shimmering green ribbons of light dancing directly above their heads. Two-hour drive from Kangerlussuaq takes you to the end of Greenland's longest road, Point 660. The name Point 660 comes from the elevation of 660 meters, 2,165 feet above sea level. This nearly 25-mile road was never intended for tourism. It was developed by Volkswagen in 1999 as an elite testing track. They chose Point 660 instead of anywhere in Canada or Iceland for one reason. The ice here is the perfect hardness and structural integrity, with an average thickness ranging from 1.2 to 1.8 miles, creating an extremely solid surface capable of enduring the most brutal tests humanity can create. Few know that a mini-city once existed at this point, built by Skanska, including a 9,700-square-foot repair shop, modern hotels, and dining facilities. 40 engineers and mechanics lived isolated for 6 months each year, keeping prototype vehicles running right on the eternal ice. This road leads to a test area with a diameter of 31 miles, providing a massive space for testing limits on traction, braking systems, and the dynamics of luxury cars like Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini, Seat, and Skoda. But nature won, and the continuous movement of the massive ice sheet shattered all the robust structures, forcing humans to flee and abandon everything in 2005. Today, this place stands as a direct observation post for melting. The ever-expanding moraine fields each year starkly demonstrate how the ice sheet is retreating. At point 660, you don't just witness frozen beauty, you are seeing the stark reality of a planet warming. Russell Glacier sits in central West Greenland, one of the rare places where the edge of the continental ice sheet can be directly accessed from land. From the Kangerlussuaq settlement, it's only about 25 kilometers to the ice surface. Here, surface melt phenomena create streams on the ice, draining into deep ice holes and underground channels within the glacier. These water flows reduce friction between the ice and the underlying rock, causing the glacier to slide faster in the warmer seasons. This is one of the key mechanisms scientists use to understand why Greenland's ice reacts so quickly to rising temperatures despite the low rainfall. From 1987 to 2007, Russell remained relatively stable. But in 2007, an enormous ice flood occurred. Water trapped beneath the ice surged violently, awakening a force that had been dormant for years. Since then, similar floods have occurred nearly every year, signaling a complete shift in the ice sheet's drainage system. That's not all. Scientists have also discovered a greenhouse gas released from the deep ice sheets, a force so potent it impacts the atmosphere. This makes Russell Glacier not just a melting block of ice, but a direct link in the global greenhouse effect. Right next to Tasiilaq, there is a lush oasis that is home to many rare Arctic plants, considered the heartbeat and soul of Tasiilaq. The valley begins with a small stream flowing through Tasiilaq and extends behind the town's cemetery. This winding stream is not only the lifeblood of the town, but also serves as a pathway that helps visitors escape the hustle and bustle of daily life and immerse themselves in the silent, natural world. When the faint sunlight of summer emerges as a sign of life, the small river winds through every corner of the town, and this area begins to showcase rare Arctic flowers and plants, contrasting sharply with the snow-covered slopes and icy fjords surrounding it. Inside the valley lies the first garden in the area, where vegetables and greens are grown to directly serve the local community. Life continues as people adapt out of necessity rather than choice. The existence of this green space shows how people use the terrain, water, and microclimate to extend the limits of living in a harsh environment. The Flower Valley thus becomes a crossroads between human life and the Arctic ecosystem, where the natural landscape and survival activities coexist in a fragile balance. Igaliku, a small but mysterious village, is a place not to be missed for those who want to learn deeply about Viking culture and the life of the Norse in Greenland. In such an extreme weather environment, homes had to be built from materials that could withstand nature, and Igaliku is the only place in Greenland that uses a type of stone carved by previous generations to build houses called silicate stone, a type of rock with solid and durable structure. This is a small, yet tightly knit community with a population ranging from 21 to 31 people, living and surviving in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Here, stepping on the grass is considered a taboo because it is a precious food source for the sheep. This is a clear testament to mutual dependence in a community where everything is tightly connected. Here, history is etched in stone. About 700 years ago, a man with a desire to conquer new lands stepped foot in southern Greenland, bringing European traditions, faith, and construction techniques to create structures like Hvalsey. The church was built from local stone with a simple yet elegant design. Typical features of medieval Scandinavian architecture here include thick stone walls and narrow windows. Hvalsey Church was not only a place of worship, but also the cultural and social center for the Norse community in Greenland. It was a gathering point, a shelter, and the link between settlers and the old world they had left behind. A wedding held in September 1408 is the last recorded event of the Vikings in Greenland, as documented in the Icelandic sagas. Shortly after this event, the Norse mysteriously disappeared from Greenland, leaving behind very few clues. Theories about their decline include climate change, resource depletion, and conflict, but there is still no definitive answer. Founded in 1775 by a Norwegian named Anders Olsen, this city now has a population of 3,000, making it the fourth largest city in the cold land of Greenland. The houses here are painted in bright, random colors. Painting houses in vibrant colors is believed to reduce the feeling of cold when looking at them in the freezing environment. Unlike other frozen areas, this place is famous for a freshwater lake named Tasiilaq, which can be directly used as an abundant source of water for the life and activities of the local people. For children and residents of Qaqortoq, the lake is a place filled with summer memories. During the warmer months, when the ice melts, local children frequently come here to swim and play in the cool water. Due to the high humidity climate, mornings here often have thick fog, so dense that it's impossible to see the road for movement, and the fog usually only clears by midday. Sisimiut Fjord is a waterway about 70 to 72 kilometers long, located in southwestern Greenland. This place is known as the Patagonia of Greenland, or the Yosemite of the Arctic, due to its stunning mountains. The area is famous for its massive granite rock walls that attract climbers, including the peaks of Uummannaq, 1,858 meters, and Qaqortoq, 2,045 meters. The Chingua Valley inside the fjord is the only place in Greenland where natural dwarf trees grow. The name of the nearby town of Nanortalik means place with polar bears, although this species is no longer commonly seen in the southern part of the region. This is the only region in Greenland with large-scale agricultural and livestock activities, especially sheep and cattle farming. A sad story is that in 1863, the entire population of the village of Tasiilaq in the fjord perished due to famine, and the village remained uninhabited until 1933. Due to the effects of climate change, the glacier at the head of this fjord has been continuously retreating in recent history.